Let me tell you something that nobody told me when I turned 30. Your 30s are simultaneously the best and worst time to start building real wealth. And I know that sounds contradictory, so hear me out. The best part? You're finally making real money. You've got a career, you've got some experience. You're not 22 and broke and just hoping your debit card doesn't decline at the gas station. The worst part? Life also gets expensive in your 30s in ways that sneak up on you. Mortgages, kids, car payments, weddings, medical bills, the list just keeps growing. So here's the question that most people in their 30s are quietly wrestling with. Am I already too late? Have I missed the window? Is it even worth trying? And I'm here to tell you, no, you are not too late. But the approach you take in your 30s needs to look completely different from the advice you'd give a 22-year-old. And most financial content out there completely ignores this. My name is Alex, and I spend a probably unhealthy amount of time studying financial psychology, wealth-building mechanics, and why some people thrive financially in their 30s, while others feel like they're constantly running on a treadmill, working harder every year but never actually getting ahead. If that resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. And if this video ends up giving you a new way to look at your finances, give it a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more. Here's something that nobody talks about enough. Your 30s aren't just a decade of financial opportunity. They're also a decade of financial traps. And the scary part is that most of these traps look completely normal, even smart, from the outside. Let me give you the big three. Trap number 1, lifestyle inflation. When you're 24 and making $40,000 a year, you figure out how to survive on $40,000 a year. Then you get a promotion and you're making $65,000. And suddenly your apartment gets nicer, your car gets newer, your dinners get fancier. And somehow, you're still not saving any more money than before. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's basically a financial black hole that swallows income increases whole. According to a survey by Charles Schwab, nearly 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and this isn't just low-income people. It includes people making six figures. Because your expenses have a funny way of expanding to fill whatever income you bring in. Trap number 2, keeping up with your peer group. When you were 22, your friends were all broke together. It was kind of fun. Cheap pizza, house parties, complaining about student loans. Nobody expected you to be fancy. But in your 30s, the comparison game intensifies. Someone buys a house in a nice neighborhood. Someone else drives a new BMW. Another friend just got back from a 2-week vacation in Europe. And suddenly you feel behind, even if your actual financial situation is fine. This psychological pressure is real, and it costs people an enormous amount of money. Robert Cialdini literally wrote a book on the psychology of social influence. And one of the biggest drivers of financial decisions isn't logic or math. It's what we see the people around us doing. Your neighbor's new kitchen renovation has a direct effect on how you feel about your kitchen, even if you've never once thought about renovating it before. Trap number 3, major life expenses clustering together. Here's something cruel about your 30s. All the big expensive life events tend to hit at the same time. You buy a house, you get married, you have kids. Maybe you're still paying off student loans from your 20s. Your parents might start needing help. Your car needs replacing. Each of these things individually is manageable, but when they stack up in a 5-year window, which they commonly do in your 30s, the cash drain is staggering. And if you haven't built a financial foundation before all of this hits, you end up funding your entire life on credit cards and hope. So the first truth about building wealth in your 30s is this. The biggest threat to your financial future isn't your income. It's the steady accumulation of financial commitments that quietly consume everything you earn before any of it has a chance to grow. Okay, so before we talk about building wealth, we need to talk about something a lot of people avoid. Actually knowing where you stand right now. I know that sounds basic, but you'd be genuinely shocked by how many people, smart, educated, well-earning people, have no real clarity on their current financial picture. They kind of know what they make. They kind of know what they spend, but the details are fuzzy. And here's the problem with fuzzy. You can't optimize what you can't measure. There are 3 numbers you absolutely need to know if you're serious about building wealth in your 30s. Number 1, your net worth. This is every asset you own. Savings, investments, home equity, retirement accounts, minus every liability you owe. Mortgages, car loans, credit card debt, student loans. This single number is your financial scoreboard. And most people either don't know it or actively avoid calculating it because they're afraid of what they'll find. For reference, the median net worth for someone in their 30s in the US is roughly $35,000 to $48,000, depending on the exact age range. The average is much higher, around $120,000, but averages get dragged up by people with a lot of wealth. The median is more realistic. If you're above that median, you're doing better than most of your peers. If you're below it, that's not a reason to panic, but it is a reason to pay attention. Number 2, your savings rate. Not just how much you're saving, but what percentage of your income actually makes it into investments or savings accounts before you spend it. Most financial experts suggest 15 to 20% as the minimum target for building real retirement wealth. If you're at 6%, the national average, you're essentially treading water. Number 3, your investment allocation. Where is your money actually sitting right now? Is it in a savings account earning practically nothing? Is it in a 401k that you set up 5 years ago and never looked at again? Is it invested in a way that makes sense for a 35-year-old who has 30 more years of compounding ahead of them? A lot of people in their 30s are either too conservative, keeping money in savings accounts that can't beat inflation, or they just genuinely haven't looked at their investment mix since they were 25. Both of these cost you money in the long run. The point of knowing these 3 numbers isn't to make you feel bad. It's to give you a baseline. Because here's the thing about your 30s. You almost certainly have more earning potential ahead of you than behind you. The decisions you make right now, with real clarity about where you stand, can change the trajectory of your entire financial future. But only if you're working with accurate information. Okay, I want to push back on something for a minute. Because there's this pervasive idea in financial culture that if you didn't start investing at 22, you've already blown it. That the compound interest train has left the station and you're standing on the platform watching it disappear. And that's just not true. Yes, starting at 22 is better than starting at 32 from a pure math standpoint. Nobody is going to argue with that. But the gap is not as catastrophic as social media makes it sound. And more importantly, starting at 32 is dramatically better than starting at 42 or 52. Here's the math. Let's say you're 32 years old and you start investing $600 a month in a diversified index fund, earning a historical average of about 8% annually. By the time you're 65, you'll have roughly $1.1 million. $1.1 million from $600 a month over 33 years. Now, would you have had more if you started at 22? Yes, absolutely. At $600 a month from 22 to 65, you're looking at around $2.4 million. That's a significant difference. But here's the context that matters. Most people at 22 aren't actually investing $600 a month. They're paying off student loans, figuring out their career, dealing with entry-level salaries. The version of investing that actually happens at 22 for most people looks a lot more like $100 a month, if that. Meanwhile, someone in their 30s with a real career and real income can often invest $600, $800, $1,000 a month or more. And at those contribution levels, the power of compound interest is still extraordinary. The key insight here is that compound interest in your 30s isn't about what you missed. It's about what you still have. You have 30-plus years of compounding ahead of you. Think about what that actually means. If you invest $50,000 today at age 33 and never touch it, it becomes roughly $500,000 by the time you're 63 at an 8% annual return. That single $50,000 does all that work on its own. You don't have to do anything except not touch it. And here's where it really gets interesting. Because in your 30s, you're often reaching your first real savings milestones. Your first $50,000, your first $100,000. And those milestones have a compounding effect that accelerates dramatically. Your first $100,000 in investments feels like it takes forever to accumulate. Your second $100,000 takes significantly less time because the first pile is generating returns alongside your contributions. Your third $100,000 comes faster still. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, famously said the first $100,000 is the hardest. And once you understand compound interest, you realize why. Every dollar you get into the market in your 30s has decades to multiply. That's the window you still have. And it's wider than most people realize. All right, so we've established that your 30s are financially dangerous, that you need clarity on your numbers, and that compound interest is still working hard in your favor. Now let's talk about what you actually do. There are 5 things that genuinely move the needle when it comes to building wealth in your 30s. And I want to be clear up front. These aren't secrets. They're not hacks. There's no clever arbitrage here. But there's a reason most people don't do them, and it's worth understanding that reason. Step 1. Automate your savings before you can spend it. This sounds almost embarrassingly simple, but it might be the single most impactful change most people can make. Every time your paycheck hits, a predetermined amount should automatically transfer to your investment account before you ever see it. This is called paying yourself first, and the reason it works is purely psychological. When money sits in your checking account, your brain perceives it as available, and available money gets spent on reasonable things, on unnecessary things, on things you don't even remember buying 2 weeks later. But when money moves automatically to a place you don't habitually check, it stops competing with your daily spending impulses. Max out your 401k match if your employer offers one. A 401k match is literally free money. If your employer matches 3% of your salary and you're not contributing at least 3%, you are voluntarily refusing a raise. That's the clearest way I can put it. And yet surveys consistently show that roughly 20% of people with access to a 401k match don't take full advantage of it. Step 2. Attack high-interest debt aggressively. Here's a framing that helps. Paying off credit card debt that charges 20% interest is the equivalent of getting a guaranteed 20% return on your money. No investment reliably delivers 20% annually. Not index funds, not real estate, not anything legal. The average American credit card balance is around $9,000. At a 20% APR, that's $1,800 a year in interest, just to stand still. That's $150 every single month going straight to your credit card company and doing nothing for your future. Eliminating that debt doesn't just save you money. It frees up cash flow that can immediately be redirected into wealth building. Step 3. Increase your income intentionally. This is the lever that most financial advice underestimates. There's a ceiling on how much you can cut from your budget. But there's theoretically no ceiling on how much you can earn. Your 30s are typically your highest earning decade relative to your experience level. You have enough expertise to command real compensation, but you're young enough that your peak earning years are still ahead of you. This is the moment to be strategic about career growth. Ask for raises. Job hop if necessary. Research consistently shows that switching companies increases salary faster than staying put. Develop high-value skills. Build a network. Explore side income. Even an extra $500 to $1,000 a month in income, invested consistently, can make a meaningful difference to your long-term wealth picture. Step 4. Invest in low-cost, diversified index funds. I know this sounds boring. It's supposed to be boring. Boring is what works. Study after study has shown that the vast majority of actively managed funds underperform simple index funds over a 10 to 20-year period. Why? Because index funds have lower fees, they're more tax efficient, and they don't rely on a fund manager consistently making better predictions than the market, which virtually nobody can do over the long term. A simple 3-fund portfolio, a total U.S. market index fund, an international index fund, and a bond index fund, is all most people need. Set your allocation based on your risk tolerance and time horizon. Automate contributions, rebalance once a year. That's it. That's genuinely all you need to do. Step 5. Protect what you're building. In your 30s, you start to have real things to protect. Income, assets, maybe a family. Yet insurance is one of the most neglected parts of personal finance. If you have dependents who rely on your income and you don't have term life insurance, you're one bad event away from wiping out everything you've built. If you don't have disability insurance, a serious illness or injury could eliminate your income for months or years. These aren't scary hypotheticals. These are actuarial realities that insurance companies have entire departments calculating. Building wealth is only half the equation. Protecting it is the other half. I want to talk about something that goes beyond spreadsheets and investment accounts. Because here's what I've noticed after spending a lot of time studying people who actually build wealth in their 30s and beyond. The math is almost always the easy part. The hard part is the identity shift. Most people who grew up without wealth have an internalized belief system around money that they've never consciously examined. Things like, money is stressful, rich people are lucky or corrupt, wanting more money is greedy. You're supposed to work hard, spend what you earn, and hope retirement works out somehow. These aren't conscious beliefs. They're absorbed from your environment growing up, from watching how your parents handled, or didn't handle, money. From cultural messages about what a normal financial life looks like. From the financial behavior of the people around you. And here's why this matters practically. Your behavior with money will always trend toward your deepest beliefs about money. You can read every personal finance book ever written. You can know exactly what you should be doing. But if, at a deeper level, you believe that people like you don't actually get wealthy, that it's for other people, smarter people, luckier people, your behavior will undermine your intentions every single time. So what does this identity shift actually look like? It starts with deciding, consciously and explicitly, that you are someone who builds wealth. Not someone who's trying to get better with money. Not someone who hopes things will work out. Someone who actively and intentionally builds financial independence. This sounds like self-help fluff, but it has real behavioral consequences. When you see yourself as a wealth builder, you make different decisions. You don't blow a bonus on something you'll forget in 6 months because you don't feel like you deserve to invest it. You ask for the raise because you understand that your income is your primary wealth-building tool. You skip the status purchase because the fleeting social approval doesn't align with what you actually care about. There's a related concept that psychologist Carol Dweck calls the growth mindset. The belief that your abilities and outcomes aren't fixed, that they're a product of effort, learning, and adaptation. Applied to finance, this means believing that your financial situation isn't just a reflection of how lucky or unlucky you've been. It's something you can actively change. The people I see make the most dramatic financial transformations in their 30s aren't the ones who suddenly found a secret investment strategy. They're the ones who changed how they see themselves in relation to money. Once that shift happens, the tactical stuff, the savings rates, the index funds, the debt payoff, clicks into place because it's aligned with who they believe they are. And one more thing on this topic. Stop comparing your financial story to people in different chapters. The guy at work who drives a nicer car might be carrying $60,000 in debt you don't know about. The couple on Instagram who just bought a stunning house might have gotten a family inheritance. You don't know people's financial backstories. And comparing your internal reality to someone else's external presentation is a recipe for bad financial decisions and unnecessary misery. Build your own benchmark. Track your own progress. Measure yourself against your past self, not against whoever's winning the social media highlight reel this week. Let me run through a few specific mistakes I see people make over and over in their 30s, because naming them clearly might help you avoid them. Mistake 1. Treating your home as your primary investment. Home ownership is great for many reasons: stability, equity building, not having a landlord telling you what to do. But it's not a substitute for a real investment portfolio. Your home doesn't pay dividends. You can't sell a bedroom when you need cash. And when you factor in mortgage interest, property taxes, maintenance, and insurance, the actual return on residential real estate is considerably more modest than people assume. Your home is a great place to live. It's not your retirement plan. Mistake 2. Pausing investments to save for something big. I hear this constantly. I stopped contributing to my 401k while we save for the down payment. Or, we put our investment contributions on hold while we renovate the kitchen. And I understand the logic. It feels like you're freeing up cash for something important. But what you're actually doing is forfeiting compound growth on money during the exact years when it has the most time to compound. Every 6 months you're not invested is 6 months of growth you'll never get back. Keep investing during savings goals. Reduce contributions if you must, but don't stop entirely. Mistake 3. Waiting until everything is perfect before starting. Waiting until you pay off your student loans. Waiting until you get a higher salary. Waiting until the market is less volatile. Waiting until you fully understand investing before putting money in. Perfection is the enemy of good. And good, started today, beats perfect started in 2 years because of the compounding you'd lose waiting. You don't need to have everything figured out. You need to start. Mistake 4. Neglecting your emergency fund. A lot of people in their 30s are so focused on investing that they skip the emergency fund step. They figure the money works better in the market, and from a pure return standpoint, they're right. But the emergency fund isn't an investment. It's insurance against having to liquidate investments at a bad time or take on debt when life does what life inevitably does. 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account is not optional. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. Here's the bottom line about building wealth in your 30s. The rules are actually simple. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference consistently. Protect what you've built. Stay patient. The challenge has never been knowing what to do. The challenge is doing it consistently, for years, while your peer group is buying things that look impressive, while life is throwing expensive surprises at you, while every financial headline is trying to convince you that something urgent is happening and you need to react. The people who build real wealth in their 30s are almost never the ones who found a clever shortcut. They're the ones who stayed boring, stayed consistent, and let time and compound interest do the heavy lifting. You have more time than you think, and more opportunity than most people your age are using. The decision to start, or to get serious if you've already started, is the most valuable financial decision you'll make this decade. If this video gave you some clarity or a new way to think about your money, please hit that subscribe button. I put out content every week about the real mechanics of building financial independence. No fluff, no get-rich-quick nonsense, just stuff that actually works over time. Drop a comment and let me know where you're at in your financial journey. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.